Sorry, go ahead. Kashiji?
I think technical is frozen. You may have to join in again.
Okay.
Oh, now it's working. It's moving.
Kashiji, can you hear us?
I think this is from India. It's not from this side.
Kashiji, can you hear us?
He's not. He dropped.
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, Kashiji, for this hangout, for us to hear your stories, especially Guru stories, and always, get to experience the depth of your knowledge. For all of the listeners out there, welcome to the Hangout with Kashiji. Let me just give a little bit of introduction for Kashiji, though he's known and very dear to all of us. He's one of our senior teachers from Art of Living, and who's been with Gurudev for the last close to 2 decades now, Kashiji?
Absolutely, 22 years.
22 years. He's a graduate from IIT, and he was lucky enough to experience Sudarshan Kriya while he was at IIT. And right after he graduated, he decided that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Gurudev, and became full-time. He's very much into yoga and is a certified Yoga Alliance teacher, and has been traveling extensively around the world teaching yoga, and is now also a silence course teacher and a Shakti Kriya teacher. Right, Kashiji?
Absolutely.
And, yes. And he's very well known for his wit and humor, which you will get to experience soon, and the depth of his knowledge that we've experienced numerous times on such hangouts, and when he was traveling in US. And he has taken the time out for us to experience this joy, and he gets to regale us with his Guru stories and experiences with Shakti Kriya and whatnot. So without much ado, we'll get started. Kashiji, would you like to say something?
Something. Yeah, that's something. So Shakti Kriya, one day we were all, evening time, maybe in the ashram, and I just got a message, come, Guruji is calling. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And we went to Badrivishala, which is a place where usually Guruji meets people. And then there were a few of us, me, Girin, and a couple of other people. And then Guruji said, okay, let's do something. And then he got us to, he said, okay, just move your hands and then do this and do that. And very soon something incredible was happening. That's when I realized that there's a new technique that's coming out. And we are fortunate enough to be doing it with Gurudev himself. Then I started assisting Guruji on all the Shakti Kriyas, demonstrating. Every time it just blew my mind how such a simple thing could have such a profound impact on people. And assisting Guruji on those first few Shakti Kriyas, it just gave me a glimpse of how this whole universe is there filled with energy, and we just need to tap into that. And that secret, that key is really the key to making life full of joy and celebration.
I see. And you mentioned that you had an incredible experience receiving directly from Gurudev himself. Can you tell us, what did you experience in terms of, did you feel that your life changed after that, or anything else that was impacted?
I always knew that there's something that's taking care of my life. Ever since I was a child, and if if I look at everyone's life, everyone feels this thing that, well, I've gone through life and something has brought me all the way till here. And but doing the Shakti Kriya made it very tangible. There's something that you hear in theory, read in theory, but when you start actually going on a job and putting it into practice, it's a completely different ballgame altogether. It's like maybe you study computer science at university, but when you actually join a job and start coding, it's a completely different thing, and you realize that, oh, that's what I learned, and this is how it actually is. So for me, Shakti Kriya was that. I had done Sudarshan Kriya, I had done all the meditations, everything. And of course, it was a great experience. But the Shakti Kriya just allowed me to realize that, hey, this universe is full of energy. And this, whatever name we give it, Kundalini or Shakti or just energy, I think uh, the Shakti Kriya really made me experience. What happened after that was very interesting. I didn't think that. I thought it was a great experience, and then I started wondering, what is it actually doing to me? And then when I started noticing my sadhana, it just became deeper. I would close my eyes and I would see that uh, that it was instantaneous. I mean, I always loved doing sadhana, and it was always beautiful, but it brought a qualitative change in the way my sadhana was happening. It was as if I was doing sadhana in a room, and suddenly that room expanded, and there was much more space.
Yeah, it's wonderful actually, and we've heard that a personal sadhana experience goes deeper. Are there other benefits of Shakti Kriya too?
I've been teaching Shakti Kriya for some time now, and of course, at a personal level, it has benefited me in making my sadhana deeper. But a lot of people have actually said, um, emotions. A lot of emotional baggage gets released during the Shakti Kriya. So many people who have done the course with me have come and shared that it just relieved them of all that they were holding on to. One couple did the Shakti Kriya with me. I think it was in Pune or somewhere. And they said that they were almost about to separate. And suddenly they found the love in the relationship back. It was as if all the baggage that they were holding on to, it just got released in the Shakti Kriya. And they found that they could find that same enthusiasm and that same love that they had at the start of their relationship. So for me, I really feel we hold on to so much of our baggage, and we never know how we can release it or get rid of it. The Shakti Kriya is a great tool to really get free of all things that we are holding on to, and and that is one of the aspects. The other aspects is amazing health um, differences. I would say uh, there's this young student. I think she was in college or something, and she came and told me, "Yeah, I I really used to feel so tired throughout the day, but after doing the Shakti Kriya, it just gave a burst of energy. And then every day that she did the Sudarshan Kriya, she would actually feel that same intensity, not of the experience, but of her sadhana. And she said that got me throughout the whole day. So as far as physically is it's concerned, it just gives you, it expands the envelope of your energy, so to speak.
It's wonderful to hear that Shakti Kriya actually releases a lot of emotional baggage from the past, and also releases, frees you from within. But there are people who are asking that they have done Sudarshan Kriya and they've been practicing regularly. Should they even think of doing Shakti Kriya? How is it different?
Yeah, uh, I think the whole idea is that the grace of the Guru, the the universe has many pathways. You, it's like if I want to come from India to the US, I can fly via Frankfurt, Amsterdam, London. There are so many different ways of doing it. And everyone has their own preferences. So you never know what really clicks for each one of them. Having said that, Sudarshan Kriya and Shakti Kriya are two different ball games altogether. Sudarshan Kriya is something that you learn and you practice on a daily basis. Shakti Kriya is something that it's like a launch pad, that I would say. If you remember, at least when I did my happiness program and I did the Sudarshan Kriya the first time, I was blown. It was an amazing experience for me. For some people, it builds on the experience. But after doing it for a little while, and I would go to follow-ups regularly, and then I kind of thought, oh, well, I know Sudarshan Kriya. I know, okay, Guruji is going to say, at this time. And it became something like, very familiar. And then Guruji came up with the Shakti Kriya, and that whole magic of doing a new technique was there. It's like Guruji has so many tools in his arsenal, so to speak, and he gives all of them to us. In fact, once after Navratri, he had just come out of silence, and we were just sitting there, total silence, half an hour. No one spoke anything. It was magical. And then Guruji opened his mouth and he said that there is so much I want to give to this world. And I just wish there are enough people who are eligible to take that. So for me, somehow, the Guru has so much to give. And he keeps giving various things depending on how much we can take, depending on how eligible we are, where we have progressed. So I feel Shakti Kriya is the next step, so to speak. And there's the Sudarshan Kriya, then the hollow and empties of the part 2 course, and all these different techniques. And each of them has their place. They kind of fit into the jigsaw puzzle of this whole universe.
Right. I remember Gurudev saying this, that there are lots of goodies in the bag, so he's taking one out once in a while and letting us experience and help us get to the next level. You mentioned that it's Shakti Kriya is like a launch pad. Do you think newbies who have taken one silence course are ready to experience Shakti Kriya?
I would say that it's very difficult for anyone to judge who's a newbie and who's not. Maybe we have had so much of spiritual traveling on this path, and we just entered right now. Or maybe we have actually been on this path for many lifetimes, and we've just done and reconnected with the path. So for me, I really feel that this trying to judge who is eligible, who is not eligible, is best left to the Guru. And he keeps telling, okay, this is the eligibility. Okay, so many advanced courses, 1 advanced course, 2 advanced course, or whatever. And based on that, whoever becomes eligible. And of course, there's always a veto power. So you can always check with Guruji and see, hey, can I? And he says, okay, go ahead. So in that sense, for me, I believe it's very difficult to judge any individual's spiritual progress on the path. And maybe there are still some criteria like do this course or that course. But essentially, I would say that there is a higher power that takes care of all these things, that makes the birds chirp, that makes the trees grow leaves at the right time and make them fall at the right time. So this universe is really organized, and that's what the Shakti Kriya really stands for, to recognize this amazing organizing power of the universe and how I can tap into it. Just imagine all the planets, they are moving in their orbits, and this whole universe, right from the single atom which has electrons and protons, they're all so organized. There's something that's really taking care of everything. And so tapping into this power is Shakti Kriya. And therefore, I would say that when you're eligible, just do it. Don't wait for anything. And Guruji keeps letting more and more people experience that. So he decides the eligibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, hey, now there's going to be turbulence, so wear your belts. Now there's no turbulence. Okay, you can go walk around. So we'll leave it to the pilot.
Right, right. Absolutely. And from an eligibility criteria, now we require only one Art of Silence course to be able to come and experience Shakti Kriya. So I think it's about time that people can, fasten their seatbelts and get ready for the launch pad, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned that you were one of the lucky few who got to experience Shakti Kriya directly from Gurudev, right? We've always wished we had experienced Sudarshan Kriya from Gurudev, but you were lucky enough to get Shakti Kriya from him. How was it?
It was mind blowing. We never knew what was happening, and I remember just going there, doing it, and I opened my eyes. Half an hour had passed, and I said, "Wow!" I thought I just closed my eyes. I was reminded of this one story of from the Ashtavakra, where the king Janaka closes his eyes and he opens his eyes, and a whole lifetime has passed. And he asks, "Is that real or this real?" So for me, it was that Janaka experience of the Guru sitting in front of me, and me closing my eyes and opening my eyes, and so much had happened. So it was like uh, like beyond time, so to speak.
Right, right. It's amazing. I mean, to receive it directly from the source must be such a big blessing. Um,
And
yeah.
that's what I feel when sorry to interrupt you. When I also felt like this. Wow, getting it from the source. Obviously, this is the best. But then I realized that each teacher is actually connected to the same source. So, in a certain sense, that uh, what you were saying is like I always wished I was there in that first Sudarshan Kriyas when Gurudev used to conduct it, and that thing was always there in my mind that hey, I wish I could have been there. And then, but all the people, maybe the old timers, they would always say, well, it's all Guruji's grace that flows through all the teachers. And I would always think, yeah, all of that is true, but I wish I was there. And then I actually experienced being there with Guruji for the Shakti Kriya, and it was really mind blowing. There is a kind of a flavor of immediacy, of being right there, being present there, and that was something amazing. In fact, just a month back or so, Gurudev conducted the Vigyan Bhairav in Bombay, and I was sitting there. I know for sure I've read the Vigyan Bhairav, I've been exposed to this philosophy, but just sitting there in front of the Guru brings it all alive. And that I feel is something that is really special about doing the Shakti Kriya.
Absolutely. And we are so fortunate that he's taking the time. Just being in his presence is so uplifting. So, experiencing the launch pad in his presence would be just mind blowing, I'm sure. And we are fortunate to have him here. I know there are other teachers like you who are teaching. So to experience Shakti Kriya directly from him in Bay Area would be just an awesome experience, I think.
Be
Totally, right? Not to be missed. So,
not to be
absolutely. Kashiji, so a lot of people want to do courses with Gurudev, but then the question comes like, there will be so many people. How do I feel special? Like, how do I get his attention in this big mass of like, hundreds of people that might be there?
the whole idea of doing a course with Gurudev. It's I feel the connection is something that is beyond the physical. In fact, if you look at it, the Sudarshan Kriya is all about just breathing in and breathing out. Yet it does so much. It does something at a completely different plane of existence. So at that plane of existence, there are no limitations in terms uh, mm, of number, or which is why, for example, whenever we do the Sudarshan Kriya, it doesn't matter how many people are there in the room, but I still get an experience. I still am able to transcend. In the same way, in fact, the more the merrier. The more people that are there, the consciousness kind of comes together. Sangatchatvam happens, and something incredible happens. It actually builds on our experience. So the more people that are there, it brings out something much more beautiful from the whole the experience of Shakti Kriya. So, and this is something that I've also noticed while teaching, that when we have a smaller group, it's a different experience. But when the group becomes bigger, it has a cumulative effect. So, in a sense, I would. It's now this is just a hypothesis from my part. Since I had a kind of technical education, and I like to make all these hypotheses and try to find out what happens, why, and everything. I really feel that the more people that are there sitting in front of Gurudev, it brings out more from him. It's like when you make the container bigger, then the amount you can pour into it also becomes more. So take a 1 gallon container and you can pour much more than a 1 liter one, so to speak. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. The impact of collective consciousness, of course, is way more than just a smaller group of people doing it together, right? And that's why we all try to be in courses with Gurudev, and we've experienced it. And I'm sure a lot many more people will get to do that. So, Kashiji, you were one of the lucky few first batch of Shakti Kriya teachers, and I'm sure you've taught hundreds of thousands of people now. Wanted to see if you would like to share any particular experiences, memorable experiences shared by the participants in your courses for Shakti Kriya.
The first thing that usually happens to people is that most people don't expect the Shakti Kriya to work. It's like when I talk about the technique and I say, okay, let's do it. They say, what? Just this much? And then I usually remind them that, Sudarshan Kriya was also just this much, breathing in and breathing out, but so much happened. And when people actually do the thing, it creates that whole experience. So I've had people on my courses saying, I heard some chanting and there was absolute silence where it was happening. I've had people experiencing sensations from all 5 senses. So I was very intrigued. People smell things or hear things or feel some breeze blowing or something when all this is not there. And I was very intrigued, and I asked Guruji, actually, how does this happen? So he said that all the 5 senses are connected to the mind, the intellect, and the consciousness. So when the Kundalini rises, when the energy rises, then it impacts all our senses. It actually purifies not just what is inside, but also the means of getting inside, so to speak, means of information, the senses. So I find, and this is what I have really found amazing, because I've had people with hearing impairment. There was one person whose eyesight became clearer. They had these glasses, and the glasses went away. And I realized that the Shakti Kriya actually goes to the root of who we are, to that source, and brings in so much healing, because all healing is actually comes out from who we are, the consciousness within. And by addressing that source, we are actually enhancing all aspects of our life. So that was very, very amazing to see.
Yeah, it's really amazing to hear that. Shakti Kriya can cleanse all of the senses and also bring in such big impact to your health as well, in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kashiji, we have a number of courses, silence course, Chakra Kriya, DSN. So, and a lot of our volunteers and devotees and newcomers have experienced some of those courses, DSN and silence course. So the question comes, why should I do Shakti Kriya? I have already done silence course or DSN. Why should I even think of doing Shakti Kriya?
Absolutely. It's like you've had your lunch and you've had your breakfast. Now, why should you have dinner? Well, because there's always something that you can, like maybe you can skip dinner, but then next day's breakfast, next day's lunch, there's always something. And like um, say you have had a great lunch, and then you see this perfect piece of chocolate. Now, I love chocolate. Now, even if I'm full, even if I'm so totally contented, I'll say, "Hey, I love that taste, and I I want to have this experience." Now, in the same way, I really feel that Guruji has this nice um, spread. Like it's like going to an ice cream shop, and you have all these spread of ice creams, and there's so much that each flavor has to offer you. So for me, I would really say that the Shakti Kriya is a completely different aspect of our sadhana. So Sudarshan Kriya does some things, the Seva does something, knowledge does something, the hollow and empties of the advanced course, they do something else. So each technique has a very specific impact on our consciousness. Though though all roads lead to Rome, so to speak, uh, but yet all roads have their individuality. So I would say that as sadhana, in fact, this is what I usually tell people, that we make a budget for everything. We make a budget for a home, for our phone. Okay, that thing's going to launch. I need to make sure that I want that. You have an iPhone. Why do you want to buy another one when it comes out, the new model? So, in the same way, I feel that we make a spiritual budget for ourselves. And that's what I do. I make sure that every 3 months, I participate in some course and become a student again. And that renewal, that uh, renewing of the sadhana, that's so essential in any sadhak's life. Because as we go along on this spiritual path, all of us tend to collect some dust somewhere here and there. So some dusting is a great way of staying on the path and staying connected to oneself.
Kashiji, so you mentioned dusting and a spiritual budget. Um, how would, like, okay, so they budgeted something for their spirituality, but how would they know whether they should be
Mhm.
dusted using Chakra Kriya or Shakti Kriya? Because you're offering both this time with Gurudev.
Okay. Well, if you're physically fit and mm, uh, you medically able to do the Shakti Kriya, go for the Shakti Kriya. And if you're physically fit and medically able to do the Chakra Kriya, go for the Chakra Kriya. Actually, I would say that just have any excuse to spend some time with the master. And that's really the crux of the whole issue. Whether you um, do the Shakti Kriya or the Chakra Kriya, one thing about both of them, the Chakra Kriya is a little more gentle on the physical aspect of who you are, and the Shakti Kriya is a little more intense at the level of the mind and all the other things. I would say it's totally subjective. We can't say that, well, Shakti Kriya is better for you or Chakra Kriya is better for you. So the only real differentiation that I would say is on your physical health. Some of you might be eligible to do the Shakti Kriya and some not. So that's it.
So would you just say that budget it spiritually and just go do either one?
Exactly. In fact, go do both.
If you can, do it now and then do it again somewhere else, right? And if you can find it with Gurudev, like
Exactly.
you said, be as much in the presence of the master as you can. Kashiji,
Absolutely.
you mentioned that Kashiji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you mentioned that through Shakti Kriya, we get to tap into this huge reservoir of energy that's around us and within us always. And we get to go deep within our consciousness. Can you talk a little bit about how does Shakti Kriya impact our consciousness?
I would say that the consciousness is um, is something that is there for everyone. It's what we are part of rather than what is part of us. Um, and really speaking, the access to that is through. Uh, I mean, it's something that is already part of us, but for making us realize this, for making us feel it. And to enliven that is why all these techniques are there. The Shakti Kriya itself is just a technique, and the technique works because there is a lot of intention behind the technique. It's like you can have a pen, but it's the intention behind you in your mind that actually makes the words on the paper. So the pen itself doesn't do anything, but it's the person who's writing whose intention translates into words on paper. In the same way, the Shakti Kriya is like the tool, and the intention of the universe through the Guru, through the consciousness, translates into an experience for us when we do the Shakti Kriya. So, in a sense, it's actually the consciousness connecting with the consciousness. I don't know if it sounds too airy fairy, but I guess it's just like a pen writing on paper. It's a Shakti Kriya, kind of like a tool that enlivens the consciousness. And I guess how it works, it's just it just works.
Like they say, it's the grace behind the technique that makes it work, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and how long we talked about Shakti Kriya having amazing impact, and people have experienced such amazing things. How long does the impact of Shakti Kriya last?
Um, uh, I've seen it last quite some time, but Guruji says that you should not repeat it before 3 months. So at least give a gap of 3 months before you repeat the Shakti Kriya. So what I would say is that the Shakti Kriya is more like an inoculation. You put it in, and then it kind of has an impact for some time. But then you kind of go back and re-establish that thing. So if you ask me for a shelf life, well, 3 months. But you can do more also.
So it is good to repeat Shakti Kriya then, correct?
100%. I love to do it. Every time I do it, um, it's like I love to do the Sudarshan Kriya. Even though I've done a long Kriya, then next week I go and do it again. So I would say everything has a dosage. The home Kriya we do every day. The long Kriya maybe every week. Similarly, the Shakti Kriya every 3 months is a good uh, time period. And now that Gurudev is making more Shakti Kriya teachers, I guess it will be more easier for access to this technique.
Got it. So would you suggest that folks who have done Shakti Kriya, let's say 6 months or to a year before, would you recommend that they come back and repeat it then?
Absolutely. In fact, on many of my courses now, people come and repeat the Shakti Kriya quite often. So I have people who have done the Shakti Kriya 4 or 5 times, and they keep coming back because every time, like on any other course, the experience is completely different. So I've had on my courses people who have repeated 4 or 5 times, and they said every time it's a different experience, and it's exactly what I needed at that time. Because we keep changing, so obviously the impact on us also changes. So it does make sense to keep doing it.
That's a great segue to the next question from the audience, Kashiji. So you mentioned experience. So what if somebody didn't experience anything or felt that they didn't experience anything on both days of Shakti Kriya? Can that happen?
Yeah, of course. Like when you've eaten chocolate, uh, then if you drink a little bit of Ojasvita, you say, hey, this Ojasvita has no sugar in it, or it's not sweet. But that's not true. Well, Ojasvita doesn't have sugar in it, but it definitely tastes very nice. But the taste doesn't come through because you've already eaten something sweet. So, in the same way, sometimes you feel that you have not had an experience, but of course, something has happened. And in fact, if you notice, the meditations have gone deeper after that. So, I would say, um, Guruji mentioned this in satsang a few days back, sometime. Um, Someone asked him, Guruji, how important is the experience when I'm doing a meditation? So Guruji said, well, if you're caught up in the experience, that's not the point of meditation. The point of meditation is to go to the experiencer. So it doesn't matter what experience you have, but if that has brought you to the experiencer, then it's served its purpose. At the same time, uh, when we are beginning, when we are starting, all these experiences help us to be more connected. So I would say, well, we do all have an experience. Some of it might be more outwardly, some of it must be more inwardly. Something is more internal. So in such a sense, everyone has always had an experience. But when we keep looking for a specific experience, that's where the problem comes. In the Yoga Sutra, this is considered one of the obstacles, the 9 obstacles. In fact, if you get a chance, you can even listen to Gurudev's commentary on the Yoga Sutras, where he says that as we progress on the path, the obstacles get more subtler and subtler. And one of the final obstacles is anavasyitatva, or there are 2 of them. One is anavasyitatva, I used to experience and I'm not experiencing anymore, or alabdha bhumikatva, other people are experiencing but I'm not experiencing. So usually we have had an experience, but when we hear other people shouting or screaming or laughing or crying, and we say, hey, they are having but I'm not having. So that moment our attention shifts from what is happening with us to what is happening to others, and therefore we lose out on our own experience. So usually on the Shakti Kriya, I tell people, well, it doesn't matter what everyone else is experiencing. You keep your focus inward, and then it helps. And so it's helped a lot of people to actually go through and realize what's happening in the Shakti Kriya.
Yeah.
Though it would be impossible to actually see what's happening.
Yeah, I remember thinking that everybody is feeling and experiencing something and I'm not. And I was even wondering whether I should be doing something different to get that experience. What would you advise to people who are asking that? Should they be doing something to gain some experience or feel something?
It's by not doing that you get. It's not by doing that you get. So the more feverish we get about wanting an experience, the more we get caught up in the feverishness and the experience gets away. It's like if you want to thread a needle and you're sitting in a bus that's going on a bumpy road, then it's going to get really difficult. And you say, I want to thread this needle, and you keep sitting on that bumpy bus, then it's not going to happen. But if you get off the bus and say, hey, let me just be still, then it's very easy to thread the needle. So it's all about letting go rather than doing something.
Yeah, it's all about coming back to Gurudev's mantra of relax and let go, right? And be
Exactly. I'm relaxing, I'm relaxing, I'm letting go, I'm letting go. Why is it not happening? That's not letting go.
That happens to all of us sometime or the other, right? Kashiji, you mentioned that we get to tap into this huge reservoir of energy, and we've heard that Shakti Kriya also helps unblock energy channels within us. Why is it that
Yeah.
energy channels get blocked in the first place?
Well, just like you have some, maybe in your house, you have some water drains which kind of drains water out from the roof, and maybe it's summer and a lot of leaves have fallen and it's getting clogged. And then when it rains, the pipe is still there, but it's clogged because it's not being used regularly. In the same way, there are so many things that we don't really use on a regular basis. There are so many pathways that never see the energy go through. And in such a sense, there are some things that we like. Maybe I'm so focused on my logic that my musical sense has been kind of catching dust for some time, or sometimes I'm so much engrossed in my own in wanting music, or I make sure that the car is playing, the radio's on all the time, I have some earphones in my ears. So sometimes there are some imbalances that get created unknowingly or unwittingly. But, and sometimes it's just maybe the lifestyle that we're leading. Maybe we are not eating on time, maybe you're not sleeping on time, or all these imbalances over a period of time tend to bring some kind of dust into our pranic system, so to speak. And that's why some spring cleaning is required regularly. It's like we drive our car regularly, but we still send it for servicing overhauling or what, I don't know what you call it, send it to the garage. It's not that you have not driven it properly, but it still periodically needs all of these things to happen.
Yeah, we all fall prey to this idea of we should definitely multitask, whether it is listening to music, studying, and doing something else, and eating together. And I think, like you rightfully said, it can impact our energy channels, and Shakti Kriya is a great way of opening them up. Right? So, along with energy channels, does Shakti Kriya impact our energy centers or chakras?
Well, we actually have uh, a lot of knowledge about that in the Shakti Kriya itself, where we talk about the different impact of the Shakti Kriya on the energy channels. There is hmm, there is a lot of connection between our senses and the energy centers, between the different elements, between this world and our energy centers. In fact, that's why uh, uh, whatever happens outside impacts our life, in the sense that if it's very hot outside, then you feel the impact. If it's raining, then that has a different impact on the mind. So we look at all these correlations, and that's why what we do, this meditation can actually have an impact outside us also. In fact, in Sanskrit, one of the in the Vedas, it says, "Yat pinde tat brahmande." What happens inside the body reflects outside. And so, uh, in fact, yesterday in Satsang, Guruji was mentioning this. Someone asked Guruji a question. It is said that the moon affects the mind, but are we able to affect the moon too? First, of course, Guruji smiled and said, "Well," but then said, at another plane, it definitely happens that our consciousness affects the environment outside. It's the idea of a television started as a thought in the mind. So everything that we do, which manipulates the external surroundings, actually starts off as a thought in the mind. And therefore, when we do the Shakti Kriya, when we do the Sudarshan Kriya, when we do all these practices, then we are actually able to make a big impact on what is outside, not just what is inside. That's why enlivening the consciousness is such a great tool to change not only the mind, but also the universe around us, the environment around us.
Yeah, what we experience also impacts other people around us, and we impact that environment.
Absolutely. And so when we enliven these chakras, these energy pathways, these channels inside us, not only are we cleansing them, but we are also making a big positive difference to the environment around us, to this world at large.
So, Kashiji, it brings me to the most favorite part of our hangout, talking about our favorite Gurudev. You've been with Gurudev for 20 something years, and you've lived in the ashram whenever you're not traveling extensively. How is it to hang out with Gurudev in such, you know, close?
Uh, we have been having satsangs every day with him. Uh, One thing I see being with Gurudev is how natural it is. It's not. It's not any make believe. It's not. I don't have to be someone else. I can be so natural. Yesterday in satsang, someone asked this question, Gurudev. Whenever you ask us, "Are you happy?" It doesn't matter what state I am in, but I always say I'm okay. Is it okay? And then Guruji smiled and said, "But when I ask the question, at that moment, you're definitely okay." And for me, this is the key to being with Gurudev. It doesn't matter whatever the state of mind, but just being in Gurudev's presence is so uplifting. It just makes that inner joy come through so transparently. I have always felt this small incidents with Gurudev is really it brings out so much meaning to life. The other day, after the Rudra Puja, the Monday morning puja, Guruji was coming back to his room. So he had a few malas, little flowers, and he used those flowers to decorate some of the objects that were next to his chair. and he was decorating it with so much patience and with so much attention. Then he looked at us and he said, you know, all these flowers are going to wither away in a few hours. Yet, knowing this fully well, I'm still putting all the attention to arrange it. This is living in the. And for me, that insight was so beautiful. I've heard present moment is inevitable so many times, living in the present so many times. But then I realized that a lot of times we don't do things in the present moment, thinking that, oh, well, it's all going to be useless anyway. What's the point of doing it? Anyway, it's going to go away. That day, I realized that it's perfect. The whole world is anyway going to vanish. It's all going to dissolve. This body is going to dissolve. And when I saw Guruji arranging those flowers and saying this, it just hit home. So for me, just being in Gurudev's presence is an amazing learning experience to see how every point of the time more facets of the same knowledge can come out. And of course, there's the joy of uh, just being there.
Absolutely. And that's the joy that pulls us all close to him wherever he is, right? Whichever continent. But I'm sure like you've shared such, close proximity to our master. I'm sure
Mhm.
you must have had precious moments with him. Are are there any favorite precious ones that you would like to share with us?
Yeah. So this happened long back. I had, of course, joined the ashram. I was staying here, and one day Guruji asked me, "Chay, you have done a PhD, right?" And I said, "No, Guruji, I've just done a master's." And he looked at me and said, "What do you mean only masters? Master is the highest." And it was like so. I mean, this one aspect of Gurudev, which is so amazing that he brings humor into every small aspect of life. And this is what actually brought me to Guruji. Because I always had this idea, this in the mind that any spiritual guru has to be serious and knowledge has to be serious. And it was Guruji who turned this on his head and said, well, knowledge is fun, joy, and celebration. I remember once it was my birthday and I went on stage. And that day, very strangely, there was no one else who had a birthday. So I was alone on stage. This was maybe 10 years back or so when crowds were much less. And Guruji looked and said, oh, today is special. And that one word had just touched my heart so much. I, I was, I was just, it just came out and I said, I felt so grateful that here I have a master who I have a personal connection with. Is not just my connection with my master, he's connected to me. And this is what I feel is the biggest gift that a guru can give. It's very easy for me to feel connected with him. But if we can make that little gesture, that little, a few words that makes me feel that he's connected to me, I think that's what Guruji does best. That's the that's what each one of us really experiences. That in the whole crowd, it feels that yeah, that glance was for me, and that is the magic that the Guru is.
Absolutely, totally agree. We all have had those experiences where in a crowd you feel the master is there only for you, and he's looking at you and he's smiling for you and he's saying things for you. And wouldn't it be great yeah, to experience that in the Shakti Kriya course, where even though there are hundreds of people, he's there only for you and talking to you and giving you that experience that's meant just personally for you.
So
So, sorry, go ahead.
exactly.
And we would love to have people join us for the Shakti Kriya course, which is July 1st and 2nd here with Gurudev in Bay Area. And the course timings are 10:30 to 2:30. And we would love to have everybody join us for the course. And we would love to close this, Kashiji. If you can talk about why is it important that they should come spend this time with Gurudev. I know we talked about all the benefits of Shakti Kriya. It cleanses the senses, it impacts the health, it just brings a new freshness into our consciousness. Why should they be even spending this time with Gurudev? Though it just seems very like obvious, but
I would put the question the other way. I would say, why wouldn't one spend some time with Gurudev? It's an opportunity that comes once in a while. You know, again, I have a theory that Gurudev has this tap that he keeps opening bigger or smaller, so to speak. And there are times when it's just special. It's like in the Navratri, when Guruji is sitting in the homas, it's just special. There is no two ways about it. In the same way, when Gurudev is teaching a course, it's just special. I still feel that the question that each one should be asking oneself, hey, why am I not on this course?
Absolutely. So I think we all agree with you when you say that any chance that anybody gets, and we've experienced this and we continue to experience this, that jump in and get on the launch pad with him, right? And just
Exactly.
come in. Great. That's behind this technique, but it does magical things to our lives, to our health, um, to our consciousness, everything in general, and just be happy and hang out with the Gurudev, right?
So, Achal, I'll leave you with this very nice feeling that I'm now going to meet Gurudev. So,
can we come, please? Can we also see him on the hangout?
yeah, you're all welcome to. No, I'll just be driving another 10 minutes or so. So,
Kashiji, thank you so much for your time. It was really, really awesome to spend this time and hear your Guru stories and also learn about the benefits and the goodness of Shakti Kriya. But more than that, just to experience, your wit and humor and the depth of your knowledge. But more than that, please do give Gurudev a hug from all of us and give him all our love and tell him that we are waiting eagerly for him to come to the area.
I know. That's why you should immediately register for the course.
Absolutely. I'm sure everybody on the Hangout is going to register tonight. Thank you so much. Jai Gurudev.
Okay. Bye, Jagadev.
Bye. Listeners, thank you so much for all of your time. You got the message. Thank you.